Out on the savanna in West Africa, there's a tower, reddish-brown, taller than a giraffe, and from a distance it looks like a castle that's been baked bone dry in the sun. But here's the strange part. This tower had no architect. There was never a single blueprint. Every last worker who built it is blind. And get this, nobody actually lives inside it. Keep those three strange things in the back of your mind. No designer and no plans, blind builders, nobody home. Because over the next few minutes, I'm going to turn each one over and show you exactly what's really going on. I'm Dr. Gray Parrot, and welcome back to the Animal Truth Lab. Today's star has a name that means business. We call it the war termite. Scientific name, Macrotermes bellicosus. A naturalist named Smeathman gave it that name all the way back in 1781, and bellicosus is Latin for warlike. Now, why would you call a tiny insect warlike? Because it keeps a very fierce army. We'll meet that army soon enough. But did you catch something? This whole time, I have not once called it an ant. A lot of people call it a white ant, and that is the very first misunderstanding we're going to flip over today. First, let me tell you how ridiculous this tower is. Each worker that builds it is about 3 to 5 millimeters long, smaller than a single grain of rice, and they spend their whole lives down in the dark underground with eyes that have shrunk away to nothing. They genuinely cannot see. And it's these little specks that team up to build a tower 1 to 3 meters tall, the biggest of them taller than a giraffe. The tallest on record is around 9 meters, and there are rumors of one over 12 meters in the Congo, though that one has never been confirmed. Do the math on that. An insect a few millimeters long building something hundreds of times its own height. What does that actually mean? Scale it up to our size, and it's like us humans building a tower several kilometers high, by hand, and with our eyes shut the entire time.
So you're going to want to ask, for a construction project this enormous, who's the chief engineer? Where are the plans? Great question, and that is the main event today. I'm going to do what we did last episode. I'll play building inspector, show up with the exact same checklist, and go down this tower one item at a time. Last time, we inspected a beaver's dam, and we discovered the beaver doesn't even live in the dam it builds. This time, the twist is even bigger. Inspection item 1, the identity of the workers. The checklist says, and I quote, building erected by ants. Wrong. Here's truth number 1. The war termite is not an ant. I know, it's got ant right there in the name, and yes, it lines up in neat columns and splits up the labor exactly like ants do, but that's a resemblance, not a relationship. In 2007, scientists ran a careful DNA comparison and published a paper with a title that pulls absolutely no punches, Death of an Order. And the conclusion was this: termites are actually a branch of the cockroaches. Their closest living relative is a wood-eating cockroach called Cryptocercus. Termites and ants only look alike because they each evolved separately and happened to arrive at the very same design. That's called convergent evolution, and it does not make them family. So white ant is a beautiful little mistake. The truth is, this is a colony of social cockroaches that build skyscrapers. Tuck that sentence away for now, because the deeper we go, the more unbelievable it's going to sound. So what does the family look like? Here's an idea I want to hand you first, because it changes everything. A nest of war termites is not a lot of bugs. You have to think of it as one single enormous creature. Scientists call it a superorganism. Picture the whole colony as one body, and then each caste, each type of termite is a different organ in that body. The ones who do the labor are the workers, those blind little specks I mentioned. Gathering material, laying walls, taking care of the babies, that's all on them.
The ones who fight are the soldiers.
a little bigger than the workers, about 6 millimeters, with a head that's unusually wide and unusually hard, carrying a pair of jaws shaped like sickles. Why is the head so big? Because it's packed solid with the muscle that snaps those jaws shut. Their main enemy is predatory ants, army ants, for example. And those ants aren't coming to raid the pantry, they're coming to eat the termites themselves. And here's the interesting part. Termites can't see. So how do they raise the alarm? A soldier bangs its head against the wall, drumming out a vibration, a coded signal that races off down the tunnels. In a close relative, scientists measured that vibration traveling over 100 meters every second, so it sweeps through the entire nest almost instantly. And that is where the Warlike name came from all those years ago. Next is the heart of this underground city, the queen. When a queen matures, something astonishing happens to her body. Her abdomen keeps swelling and swelling until it's shaped like a sausage, about 11 centimeters long, making her one of the largest queens of any termite on Earth. She swells until she can barely move, so she just lies there in the deepest chamber while the workers feed her and clean her, and she lays around 20,000 eggs a day. That works out to roughly 1 egg every few seconds, day and night without stopping.
And that's not even the most impressive part. This queen can live almost 20 years. 20 years! Meanwhile, her worker daughters live just a few short months. Same nest, same genes, and yet the lifespans differ by a factor of tens. Why? Scientists found a clue right here in the war termite. Inside the queen's body, there's a special protective system that clamps down on what are called jumping genes, little bits of DNA that hop around inside cells and cause damage. That system keeps her genes in beautiful shape. The workers actually have the very same protection, it just gradually breaks down as they get older. Once the jumping genes wake up, the worker ages fast. So this superorganism has made a very cold, very clear-eyed decision. The queen, the one who carries on the bloodline, gets protected to the very end. The workers, who can always be replaced, are simply allowed to grow old. Oh, and there's someone people almost always forget, the king. This is another big way termites split off from ants and bees. In ants and bees, the father is gone right after mating, but in the war termite's king stays right by the queen's side for the rest of his life. The two of them founded this kingdom together, and they run the whole city together. Okay, inspection item 2, the residence. So as the inspector, I want to go in and meet the tenants. I climb up into the tower and I'm stunned. This tall, grand, impressive tower is, on the inside, mostly empty. And that's truth number 2. This tower is not their home at all. That soaring tower body, especially the great chimney running up the middle, and that whole web of fine ventilation ducts across the surface is almost entirely hollow. The real home, the queen's chamber, the nurseries, and their farm, is all down at the very bottom, buried below ground. The tower itself isn't for living in, it's an organ that grows up out of the ground to do one single job.
Remember last episode, the beaver doesn't live in its dam? Well, this episode tops it. These bugs build a tower taller than a giraffe, and then they live in the basement. So what on earth are they pouring all that effort into this empty tower for? The answer has everything to do with the fact that they are farmers. Yes, you heard me right. The warrior termite is a farmer. And this is the third thing people get wrong today. Most people assume termites are decomposers that simply eat wood and digest it. They're not. On their own, they can't properly digest the toughest fibers in that wood. So here's their solution, and it's almost scary how clever it is. The workers take the dead wood and dry grass they've gathered, chew it up, and pile it into spongy structures called fungus combs, and then they farm on top of them. They grow a fungus that partners with them and only them, called Termitomyces. The fungus does the job of breaking down that rock-hard wood, and then the termites come back and eat the fungus and the old comb. In other words, they've outsourced the single hardest step of digestion to a fungus. They've been running this underground farming operation for something like 30 million years, and every termite of this kind across all of Africa traces back to one single moment long ago when their ancestors first domesticated that fungus. 30-million-year-old farmers. Human agriculture is only about 10,000 years old, so these guys are the seriously senior pros. Now here's the crux. Picture it. Down there, you've got hundreds of thousands, even over 1 million termites crammed together, plus an entire fungus farm that's constantly fermenting and in its own way breathing. What happens when that much life is packed into one place? It gets stuffy. It's constantly generating heat, burning through oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide. If that air never gets swapped out, the whole city suffocates. So ventilation, getting fresh air in and stale air out, is a matter of life and death for them. It is priority number one. And now, I bet you can guess what that empty tower is really for.
Inspection item 3, the central air conditioning. Because here's the truly magical thing about this tower. Outside on the savanna, the temperature lurches from hot to cold all day long. It can swing by tens of degrees. But the home down at the bottom holds steady at around 30 degrees Celsius, exactly right for growing fungus and raising young. So who's managing that rock-steady temperature and that fresh air? Who installed the AC? Okay, I was about to just give you the textbook answer. Actually, hold on, stop. I need to do this one over, because the textbook got this answer wrong for decades, and I am not about to pass that mistake along to you. Here's the old story. Back in 1961, a scientist wrote a paper saying the mound uses the body heat of that huge crowd of insects to push warm air upward, sustaining a steady flow of air, a convection current, like a chimney, that automatically air conditions the home below. This chimney air conditioner idea sounded so neat and tidy that it got written into the textbooks and passed along for decades. Then a scientist named Korb showed up with instruments, climbed right onto a war termite mound, and actually measured the temperature, the carbon dioxide, and the airflow. And the verdict was, nope. The body heat of that crowd of insects simply isn't strong enough to hold up a steady chimney current like that. The old answer was wrong. So what's the truth? And this is the most beautiful part. This tower is much more like a lung. Think about how your lungs work. In, out, air moving in and back out. This tower does the same. During the day, the sun warms up those thin ventilation ducts near the surface first, and the air inside them rises. At night, it reverses, and the air sinks back down. And just like that, following the temperature swing between day and night, the air in the tower breathes in and breathes out, cycling through a full round. The wind pitches in now and then, but the real star of the show is that day-to-night temperature difference. Meanwhile, the carbon dioxide and the stale air and the fresh oxygen slowly seep in and out through that thin, porous tower wall and get traded. So it isn't a chimney puffing steadily upward, it's a lung that breathes. And I want to be completely honest with you here. The fine details of this lung are something scientists have measured most clearly in a couple of the war termites' close relatives, one in India, one in Namibia. Those relatives all breathe by this same system, no question. But don't go thinking the termites understand fluid dynamics. They don't. They're just following instinct, one mud ball at a time, and they happen to end up building a shape that breathes. And here's another really cool thing. This same species of war termite builds different houses depending on where it lives. Out on the hot, wide-open savanna, it builds thin walls with ridge after ridge running up the surface, a shape people call a cathedral, great for dumping heat and moving air through the day. But move it to the cooler, shadier forest along a riverbank, it switches to thick walls and a round dome that locks the heat in and keeps things warm. Same insect, two completely different builds, depending entirely on whether it needs to shed heat or hold on to it.
Scientists have even gone out and deliberately heated up mounds as an experiment and proved that this really is the termites adjusting for temperature and not just building at random. Okay, last item on the checklist, and this is the one that drives me, the inspector, completely up the wall. Show me the plans. Bring out the chief engineer. There isn't one. No plans, no chief engineer, no foreman standing off to the side shouting, "A little higher here, put a hole there." This tower, a thing that breathes, that regulates its own temperature, that stands hundreds of times taller than its builders, grew up with no blueprint and nobody in charge at all. And this is the most unbelievable truth of the whole day. It has a name, Stigmergy. A French scientist discovered it back in 1959 while studying termites, and the principle behind it is so simple you won't believe it. Each worker picks up a little ball of mud, coats it with a dab of its own pheromone, basically a smell, and sets it down.
And here's the key. That mud ball, scented and set down right there, becomes, all by itself, the construction order for the next worker. The next blind worker comes along, smells that smell, feels that little bump of earth, and it doesn't need to read any blueprint. It only knows one thing. There's a scent here, so this is where I add on. And once it's done, it leaves behind its own fresh scented mud ball, which becomes the order for the worker after that. You see what happened there? Nobody is giving orders. The commands aren't coming down from above. The commands are written on the walls, written into the scent of every single mud ball. Hundreds of thousands, over 1 million blind workers who have no idea what the whole tower even looks like, passing it along one scented mud ball at a time. You pick up where I left off, I pick up where you left off, and together they raise a building hundreds of times taller than themselves that breathes on its own. Scientists gave this phenomenon a gorgeous name, Emergence. Order that was never dreamed up by one big brain clutching a blueprint. Order that instead grows all by itself out of the simplest rules at the very bottom. Think back to last episode, one beaver, one brain, one dam. Now look at this one, millions of little workers with no leader, no sight, each with nothing but a single mud ball. And together they raise a tower that breathes. That's exactly how they go one level beyond the beaver. They prove that to build something magnificent, you don't necessarily need a single brain holding the master plan. So how does a whole city of 1 million residents even get started? It starts with a single rainfall. Every year when the rainy season arrives, tens of thousands of winged termites come pouring out of the mounds all at once, and this is the one and only flight of their entire lives. They fly a short way, land, snap off their own wings, pair up 2 by 2, burrow into the soil, dig out a little chamber, and set up home right there, becoming a brand new king and queen. And the whole way, birds, frogs, lizards, and people are all waiting to eat them. The overwhelming majority never make it to the finish line, but all it takes is one pair getting through. Living off the little bit of stored energy in their bodies, they survive the brutal first few years, and slowly, over about 4 to 6 years, they grow into yet another city of 1 million, and every single resident of that city is the child of that one couple. And these towers change more than just the termites' own fate. Across the tropics, termites as a group are one of the most important soil engineers there are. They turn over so much earth that in a lot of tropical places, if you weighed every one of the larger creatures living in that soil, termites alone would make up 40 to 60% of it. And around a world termite mound, the soil turns especially rich and the grass grows especially well. So much so that grazers like antelope go out of their way to come and feed right at the edge of the mound. People cash in too. Those winged termites that swarm out after the rain are a hugely popular high-protein food in West Africa. People fry them up. The fungus the termites grow down in their farm also sends up big edible mushrooms from underground, a real local delicacy. And even the mound soil, because it's so fine and so fertile, gets dug up to build houses and to enrich farmland.
We humans even quietly take lessons from them when we put up our own buildings. There's a famous building in Zimbabwe whose designer says the inspiration came straight from termite mounds. It relies on natural ventilation, and it uses about 35% less energy than a typical fully air-conditioned building. One small caveat, though. The principle that building was originally explained with is exactly the old chimney story we just took apart. The inspiration is real, but that old explanation is well overdue for an update. And right now, there's a group of scientists building little robots that don't talk to each other at all and can only read the modified environment around them, exactly the way termites read their scented mud balls, to see whether the robots, too, can pull together and build something on their own. Okay, so here I am, the inspector, and I've been all the way around this thing. I went looking for the chief engineer, never found one. I asked for the plans, there aren't any. I wanted to meet the residents, the tower's empty. I asked who installed the central air, and the answer is nobody installed it. It's the wind and the day-to-night temperature swing running the whole thing all by themselves. And yet, look at it. This building passes every single item on the checklist. It stands taller than a giraffe, it breathes, and underground it keeps alive a 30-million-year-old farm, a queen who lived nearly 20 years, and millions of children. And the ones who built every bit of it are a crowd of little workers who cannot see, who have no idea what the whole thing looks like, and who were never told by anyone how to do it.
And to me, that is the most remarkable thing about the war termite. It reminds us of something. Magnificent order doesn't have to come from one brain barking out commands. Sometimes it grows all on its own, up from the very bottom, out of millions of tiny separate efforts, each one just quietly doing its own small thing. So the next time you're out walking and you spot a little termite mound that nobody's paying any attention to, you'll know that's not just a heap of dirt. That's a breathing city, raised by a crowd of blind farmers, millions of scented mud balls, one at a time, all of them together. I'm Dr. Gray Parrot. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Next time, the Animal Truth Lab inspects the most incredible house on Earth, built by an impossibly tiny architect. A little brown bird, lighter than an egg, builds the biggest nest on the planet, a grass apartment where 100 families live under one roof. And it's older than your grandma's grandma, passed down for almost 100 years. How can a bird this small build a home this big? Want the answer? Hit like, subscribe so you don't miss it, and share it with your best friend. I'm Dr. Gray Parrot. Thanks for coming to the Animal Truth Lab. See you next time. Bye-bye.